CityCast Pittsburgh is brought to you today thanks to the Greater Pittsburgh Festival of Books. This year's fest is Saturday, May 31st at the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh in Oakland, where you can immerse yourself in the region's vibrant literary community with a free event that features bookish fun for all ages. Hear from award-winning authors like Rachel Khong, Tori Peters, Sharon Flake, and so many more, plus Grammy Award winner and poet Judy Collins. Visit pittsburghbookfestival.org to register and learn more. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, the primary election is almost here, May 20th, and today is the deadline to apply for a mail-in or absentee ballot. So if you have waited until the very last minute to check what's actually in store, this one is for you. Today we've got a procrastinator's guide to your local ballot and exactly what's at stake. It's Tuesday, May 13th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with CityCast Pittsburgh producers Sophia Lowe and Mallory Falk. Reminder, Jens, for everything that we are about to say today, the deadline to register to vote has already passed. I hope that you filled that out if you needed to.
We've been giving out a lot of reminders.
It's not our fault if you didn't do it. You must be registered as a Democrat to weigh in on the Democratic ticket or a Republican to vote for Republicans.
Yes, but a very important note, if you are a registered independent, you can still vote for some things like the ballot measures that are going to be on your ballot. So stick with us. This applies to you too. And do go to your poll on Election Day. Don't sit this one out.
Absolutely. And then we'll also be recommending some voter guides from other local news organizations. So if there's any issues or candidates you have more questions about, need a little more info about, we will point you to a good place.
And we're going to start off here with what you will see on your ballot if you are a City of Pittsburgh resident. If you are not, stay tuned because we're also going to talk about some county council races and some statewide races as well. So there's a little something for everyone.
For sure. So let's dig in. So first up, of course, is the mayor's race. A mayor is chosen every 4 years. They are basically the CEO and chief marketing officer, too, of the city. They have to lead. They have to make us look good inside and out. It is such a hard job. And we've talked a lot about this. We did a whole series talking to all 4 candidates, our Mayoral Monday series. So Republicans Tony Moreno and Thomas West, Democrat Corey O'Connor, and then our current mayor, Democrat Ed Gainey, hoping to get reelected.
Yeah, and we have links in our show notes if you want to hear all of those interviews. I've heard a lot of feedback from people saying this has been really helpful because there are so many different forums, which I think is really great. But in these interviews, you can hear like a snippet of every candidate talking about like everything from housing, how they want the city to grow, schools, like you get all of it in one go.
When I think the difference is that it's not just like snippets, right? Like most of the time they only get to talk to stuff in sound bites. And in this case, it's like 45 minutes-ish of like dedicated them, all them.
And my sense is there are people who like still, as we're getting this close to Election Day, do not have their minds made up about who they're going to choose for mayor and are looking for more resources and more opportunities to hear directly from these candidates. So if that is you, if you're still trying to figure out who to cast your ballot for, definitely check out our series.
There is so much at stake with the mayoral primary.
Mm-hmm.
The city is in a super precarious financial position. That is fact. Megan has spent a lot of time in the budget.
So much.
And there's a really good chance we could end up in receivership again if some changes aren't made. And, you know, any of these 4 candidates could be the bearer of that change, just depending on how the vote goes next week.
So next up, we're going to stay in the city. Again, just for folks who live here in Pittsburgh, we've got a bunch of ballot questions, 3 that you're going to see this time.
And once again, reminder that if you are a registered independent voter in the city, you can vote on these ballot measures. So it is important to participate in this primary election, regardless of your party affiliation. So 3 ballot measures. I'm going to start off explaining the simplest one, which is ballot question number 2. So this is basically to decide if Pittsburgh's water and sewer system can't ever get privatized, if it should always stay public. So if this measure passes, it would prevent the lease and or the sale of the city's water and sewer system to private entities.
Yeah.
A little bit of background here. Back in 1995, the city leased its water and sewer system to PWSA, which is now known as Pittsburgh Water. If you see those logos that say PGH2O, that is Pittsburgh Water.
They're cute. They've got a little water droplet.
Yes, but I for sure have not gotten used to this rebrand yet. Like just when we were talking about this, I was like, oh, PWSA. Anyway, so when we say it got leased back in 95, it just means that it switched over to being run and managed by this independent authority. So the mayor and city council appoint the oversight board, but PWSA, now PGH2O, those employees are not city workers. It just separated them a skosh.
Yeah, and the reason there's a question related to this on this year's ballot is because under that old agreement back from 1995, after 30 years, this authority, Pittsburgh Water, could buy the system outright for $1, so fully separating from local government.
Just $1. That's wild.
Yeah, seems like a steal for an entire, city system. I don't know. But that 30 years is up now. And Pittsburgh Water has been pretty clear that they do not have plans to sell this system under any circumstances. They want to remain the authority for years to come. But some council members and activists, they want that extra layer of security that would come with formalizing the fact that they can't sell to private entities.
Right.
So worth noting, this measure passed city council unanimously. Our council's kind of divided right now, so I think that's interesting. Mayor Gainey supports this measure. And according to the League of Women Voters, the board of Pittsburgh Water has also expressed support for the amendment. So it seems like it's pretty well supported at this point.
And now it goes to voters. So the question will ask you on your ballot if the charter can restrict the lease and or sale of the city's water and sewer system to private entities. A yes means keeping Pittsburgh Water public forever, so as is currently as an authority. A no means that it can go private at some point in the future.
So moving on to ballot questions 1 and 3, a little background about these before we get into the nitty gritty. City Council drafted both of these ballot questions in response to a question that is not going to end up on the ballot. So this question was about whether the city should stop doing business with companies that have ties to Israel.
Yeah, the grassroots movement, Not on Our Dime, tried to get a referendum on the ballot to get the city to divest from Israel. They tried a few different ways, all connected to the war on Gaza. You might have seen these folks around collecting signatures. Some people said that prohibiting these investments whole cloth would be anti-Semitic. Some said that interfering in small investments like this could be impractical. Like in a global economy, it would be really hard to only find suppliers or vendors without any ties to Israel as a nation. The Jewish Federation and City Councilor Rachel Heisler both challenged their efforts in court, and Not on Our Dime ultimately withdrew the petition because it just didn't have enough valid signatures.
But both of these questions that are going to be on your ballot, 1 and 3, introduced again by City Council, are essentially meant to head off something like this in the future.
Like to prevent grassroots organizations like this from doing this at all.
From trying to get some kind of divestment measure on the ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting into ballot question number 1, Chris Potter at WESA summarized it super well. He said, quote, "It effectively prevents the city from shunning a business because of its ties to other countries." So if this ballot question passes, there would be a new provision added to the city's home rule charter that says the city of Pittsburgh will not refuse to do business with or otherwise discriminate against any person or entity based on race, religion, ancestry, sex, sexual orientation, age, gender identity or expression, disability, place of birth, national origin, real or perceived, or connection, association, or affiliation with any nation or foreign state. So a long list, and a lot of these forms of discrimination are already banned by federal, state, or local laws, sometimes all three.
Yeah, and I mean, props to Chris Potter at WESA. I think we're going to be citing his work a lot here, but he clarified that there is an exception here when state or federal sanctions are involved. So he gives the example that the city still wouldn't be allowed to do business with a company with ties to North Korea, say. And one thing that's notable is at least at the time of their campaign, Not on Our Dime wasn't opposing this ballot measure. Organizers said they didn't see a conflict between the two measures.
So the question you'll see in the voting booth, the question asks whether the city charter should prohibit business discrimination on the basis of protected classes.
All of those ones that Sophia mentioned earlier.
Plus association or affiliation with any nation or foreign state. So essentially, a yes means that the city can do business with any company, no matter what countries they have ties to or relationships with, and no leaves things the way they are now, where we decide case by case.
So then on to ballot question number 3. Again, this one also cropped up in response to the Not on Our Dime campaign. And the idea is that, future questions that end up on the ballot wouldn't be able to compel the city to do something it isn't legally able to do, or make political statements that aren't related to city governance.
Which conceptually is just hilarious to me, since council itself doesn't have to abide by that, and council created this rule. So they can propose and pass stuff, and they do pretty regularly, that cannot stand up in court. They don't do it knowing it's going to fail, but they at least shoot their shot. It's worth noting that some members of council maybe agree with that take, because Deb Gross and Barb Warwick, for example, neither of which are running for a re-election in this cycle, they have not rubber stamped this one.
Yeah, and I think that is notable because ballot question 1, on the other hand, got unanimous support from council, although worth noting, one council member, Kari Mosley, was absent for both of these votes.
And going back to ballot question 3, there's a concern that if it were to pass, it maybe means that the city couldn't take a stand against the Trump administration. For example, the city says that they're not going to cooperate with ICE. Would that become a problem?
So the question that you will see will ask whether our city charter should be amended to, quote, add duties or obligations beyond the lawful scope of the city's authority. A yes means that future ballot questions will have to have all their legal ducks in a row to be able to even make it to voters, or officials could just squash it. No means that Pittsburghers can keep giving it a shot. And if something ultimately needs to be struck down, it will happen exactly as it does now.
And kind of from my understanding, really broadly, voting no on ballot 1 and 3 gives people a little more power in terms of direct democracy because, like you said, Megan, people can keep shooting their shot.
Today's episode is supported by Acta. If you're planning on spending a day looking for furniture at IKEA, getting your deals from TJ Maxx, maybe fueling up on a mall pretzel, you don't need to stress about getting in and out of every one of these parking lots. Instead, hop on to the Ride Acta shuttle for just 25 cents, an actual quarter. The shuttle connects more than 275 businesses within just 2 miles of that IKEA bus stop in Robinson, and it makes shopping and running errands a lot less stressful. For just 25 cents a ride, I truly don't think there is a better deal in town. And riding the shuttle is also super easy. So just head over to that bus stop in front of the IKEA, and when the bus comes, tell the driver where you want to go. To get picked up, you can let them know in advance what time you're going to need your ride, or you can call 412-442-4773 when you're ready to leave. You do need exact change, so bring your quarters. But I think a few quarters is totally worth that store-to-store chauffeur service. To learn more, check out Acta's Instagram at RideActa. That's ACTA.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear and well organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city.
So we're going to talk now more about city council, the city school board, and county council. So who you vote for in any of these elections really just depends on where you live, what ward you're in, what neighborhood, or what municipality. So just check your ballot. Not everyone will see every single candidate. We'll start with city council. So voters choose their representatives for city council districts every 4 years. Districts are composed of those neighborhoods and wards.
And wards are those things that you see usually when you're looking for your polling place. Like,
yes.
It doesn't really come up anywhere else.
Yeah, not a frequent thing that a lot of us talk about as opposed to other cities. But like if the mayor is the president, for example, then councilors are our legislative branch. So they propose, they debate, they vote on legislation governing or affecting our city. And they have to do all of this within the bounds of state laws. Now, they also ultimately approve the budgets. So when we're talking about fiscal responsibility, that's also on their shoulders as well.
And your choices are pretty limited in this primary cycle. We've talked about it on the show before that there actually is not a single competitive city council race in the primary unless you count one write-in campaign that might get some traction. We'll see. But yeah, pretty limited choices overall.
Yeah, so we'll run through them super briefly. Again, there are some great voter guides out there. If you want to look a little closer, we'll have all those listed in our show notes. So we vote for all the even districts every 2 years and all the odd districts 2 years later. This year is an even year. So we're looking at districts 2, 4, 6, and 8, sort of. So one race, District 8, is completely unopposed. That's Erica Strasburger repping the East End around like Squirrel Hill area. Republicans could get someone on the November ballot just by writing in a name, but at least as we see it right now on our ballots, she's the only one. So districts 2, 4, and 6 each have one Republican on the ballot alongside one Democrat. So kind of boring this cycle. Like
for a primary.
Yeah, for a primary. We'll likely see the same 2 names on each district coming up in November. The only one I'll throw out there is District 2. That's representing like the West End area, Mount Washington, areas like that. The incumbent is not running. So you're going to have a fresh face on both sides, the Republican and the Democrat. That was represented by Councilwoman Teresa Cale Smith. She announced her retirement in December. She has served on council since 2009. She, at least at the moment, is one of our 2 longest serving council people. She's been the president twice in that time. So officially, you've got on the ballot Democrat Kim Salinetro. I think I'm saying that right. She's been Cale Smith's chief of staff for these last 15 years. Whoa. And then Republican Erin Coper. She is the president of the Allegheny County Council of Republican Women. And if you've been with us for a while, you have heard us talk about Coper before. She went to the Republican National Convention and made some headlines by talking about Pittsburgh and some erroneous homicide stats. Our homicide numbers were not as bad as she made them out to be.
This is also the race where on the Democratic ticket, there is a candidate running a write-in campaign. Her name is Amanda Nietrauer. She's a small business owner in Sheridan. So we talked about this a little bit before on the show. She and another candidate were both trying to end up on that ballot alongside Salinetro, and they both got knocked off of the ballot. For Nietrauer, it's because she didn't have enough valid signatures, but she's asking people to write her name in, and the other guy who got bumped off the ballot is backing her. So it's possible this race could yield an upset, or at the very least, you might see more people writing in one specific candidate versus just a hodgepodge of random names, which I think is something that happens in every election cycle.
No doubt. So we'll move on to school board now. There are 5 of 9 seats up for election, but only 4 of those are contested races. There's 1 seat where an incumbent is going to be running unopposed.
And there are only 2 school board members who are seeking re-election right now. Actually, in Pennsylvania, they're called directors instead of school board members.
Fancy.
But, like somebody who's making decisions about the school system here in Pittsburgh. So depending on where you live, you may vote for Districts 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. But
yes, they're going with the odds this time.
Yep, they're the odds.
Yep. And then they are all running on the Democratic ticket. So whoever wins this race wins. You will see their name again in November, and they'll take office next year. There is a lot at stake in this race. I mean, I would argue that school board elections are always important because the way that we educate future generations in our city is always important. But this year...
and their budget is also just enormous. Like the school system has been contracting, but they control a lot of assets, a lot of tax-exempt property. And of course, as you say, Mallory, they are educating the next generation. We should all have a vested interest in that.
Yes. But I will also say that this year in particular, there just is a ton at stake because as we've talked about on the show, the district is considering this massive overhaul, including school closures and consolidations. And so whoever serves on the school board will be responsible for really like reshaping the way the district works. I know that some school board members want to finalize that list of closures before November, before the general election. But the district has also said that it's not going to close any schools until the end of next school year, 2025-2026. So whoever lands in these seats will be responsible for figuring out like how these closures actually work and get implemented, if they can be done in a way that really minimizes the harm and the impact on people whose schools close. You know, other things they're going to be working on are trying to stem declining enrollment in the district, retain families who might be considering private or charter school, especially during this whole district shakeup. And also the superintendent, Wayne Walters, his contract is up for renewal in 2027. So they will also be responsible for reviewing that and deciding how to proceed.
And there's a bunch of great voter guides on this. WESA's has a candidate survey. City Papers is super quick and dirty. So how these candidates feel about closures, programming, funding, charter schools, and more. And then Public Source has a pretty in-depth article breaking down where the candidates stand on different issues.
Yeah, and one thing that's also notable here is there is a group of 5 candidates that are all running together as a slate that's focused on improving outcomes for Black students. This includes some incumbents and some newcomers. They've been endorsed by Black Women for a Better Education, which runs a PAC that supports candidates with this kind of commitment. They've had success getting candidates elected in the past. And that's, you know, the other, I talked about closures, I talked about enrollment, but also a really key piece of all this is trying to figure out how to make the district more equitable. So I would highly encourage you to check out those voter guides and see what kind of ideas all of the different candidates who are running have.
And last but not least for this section, we've got county council. So county council could actually see a bit more change than their city counterparts. There are 15 seats total. It really makes for a lengthy back and forth when they're like all in session and each one of them gets to do like a Q&A with whoever they're talking to. Like, my goodness, there's a lot. But just like city council works with the mayor, county council works with our chief executive, Sarah Innamorato. So the councilors, they create, amend, and approve county ordinances. They can also appoint people to a lot of boards. They affect taxes. Like they approved that tax increase we all saw late last year, and they approved the budget. So the next crop of counselors could also have the task maybe of weighing whether to pursue a countywide property reassessment, which we've also talked about on the show. Basically, every home could get reassessed so that your taxes better reflect the current state of your home. For some, the bill would maybe go down. For others, it would definitely go up. For most, it would probably go up. And there are measures that council could take, have talked about to try and protect homeowners for whom this price could be a problem. Like if it, you know, we're going to maybe price them out of their home altogether. So that whole conversation, that larger conversation about whether we should do this and how it could go down, that will probably play out to some degree over the next few years. Plus, like the regular business of taking care of the county, like the jail and bridges and road maintenance, storm cleanup, and, you know, the all important job of feeding all those bison down in South Park. There's a lot to do.
And like you said, these are more competitive races, but there is one, District 12, done and dusted. The incumbent, Bobby Palmosina, is running unopposed. He might get a Republican contender for the November. That would be via write-in.
Yeah, and similarly in districts 4 and 8, there is a choice, but it's split across the party. So like if you're a Democrat, there's a Democrat running. If you're a Republican, there's a Republican running. So those are probably decided again because this is a primary. You will probably see these names again in November. For districts 1, 3, and 9, there are a lot of choices if you are voting on the Democratic ticket because the incumbents are all stepping down. I suggest, again, checking out those voter guides. There's a good one in City Paper, another on WESA that kind of goes through their specific priorities. So in District 1, you've got 2 Democrats running against 1 Republican. In District 3, 2 Democratic choices running against 1 Republican. And then in District 9, no Republican has made the ballot. So again, we could end up with somebody via write-in. But for the Democrats, you've got 4 choices. So if you live in County Council District 9, definitely make sure you do your homework because you do have a lot to choose from. And if you read through the bios of some of these folks, even though their party affiliation is the same, Democrat, their platforms do differ like quite a lot.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
So last up, we're going to be talking about some judgeships, local judges, but also some at the state level. We will kick it off with the Court of Common Pleas.
Yes, so that is local. There are 4 different divisions: civil, criminal, family court, and orphans court. So judges get assigned to one of these divisions. But obviously, I just listed a whole bunch of different things. So this court generally deals with everything from housing to divorce proceedings. So all kinds of stuff. This one is one of our more competitive races. There are 22 candidates and 8 seats up for grabs. So Trib Live and WESA both have good guides that kind of break down the candidates' experience, their current jobs, and who has supported or endorsed them. Like one thing the Allegheny County Bar Association does is weigh in. They can highly recommend a judge, not recommend them at all. And just one thing to note as you're going through these voter guides, some of these candidates are running as both Democrats and Republicans. They are allowed to because it's considered a nonpartisan position, and some of them are just listed under the Democratic ballot. And if you're not registered with either party, you will not see these local judges on the ballot.
There's also some endorsements happening here, too. So several local progressive groups, including One Hood Power, Alliance for Police Accountability, and the PA Working Families Party, which we talked about last week, they have come together to endorse a slate of 8 judges. And this whole slate of 8 endorsement, it goes back to the last primary in 2021, where the goal was to really bring in another perspective on these races besides the Allegheny County Bar Association and the Democratic Committee. So these are endorsements for progressive judges who are really focused on criminal justice reform. So again, if these issues matter to you, if you want to know where all of these judges stand on like how they view the role of the court system, definitely check out some of these voter guides.
And unlike like magisterial district judges, all Court of Common Pleas judges in Pennsylvania do have to have legal experience. They have to be a member in good standing with the Pennsylvania Bar Association. Uniquely, that's not true of every judgeship in the state of Pennsylvania. For some of them, you can just take a test. You get some training, you take a test. But for Court of Common Pleas, it does require that legal foundation to hold the position. So everyone that you might be looking at, they have worked in the legal system, at least to some extent.
And then we will move on to state judges. A big shout out to our friends at Spotlight PA for helping us navigate these, again, state judicial races.
So we're going to start off with Commonwealth Court. There are 9 judges on this court, and just 1 seat is open. Right now, the makeup is 5 Republicans and 3 Democrats. This court deals with civil cases that involve the state government and local government. It can have a big impact on things like election laws. So as one example, one of the recent Commonwealth Court rulings was that mail-in ballots can't be rejected for having missing dates. That did get overruled by the state Supreme Court, but just gives you a sense of kind of how important and impactful these kinds of rulings can be. 1 Democrat and 2 Republicans are running for this seat. So if you're voting in the Democratic primary, you've got 1 choice. If you're voting in the Republican primary, you've got 2.
And the other state court that's going to be on your ballot is the Superior Court. So this court is made up of 15 different people. There is 1 seat open. Out of the 14 seats that are currently filled, there are 8 Democrats and 6 Republicans. So Superior Court handles appeals from the Court of Common Pleas. So again, that was at the local level. And these cases can be criminal, civil cases, could be family court. And Superior Court is often the court that has the final say on cases. Obviously, the highest level, we have the state Supreme Court too. But the PA Court website explains that a lot of the time, the petitions to review Superior Court cases are denied. So also an important position. And there's 1 Democrat running, 2 Republicans.
Yeah, so zooming out a little, if you're looking at the Commonwealth Court, you've got a 5-3 Republican majority right now. If you're looking at the Superior Court, there's an 8-6 Democratic majority. So this won't swing anything completely, but it could pad a little bit depending on which side you're rooting for. These positions are also important because folks who get elected to these courts often have a big leg up on potentially getting a state Supreme Court slot one day, which is our state's highest court. You can check out our show notes again for links to where you can read more about the individual judges and what they stand for and some of the cases that they've heard over the years.
Okay, so now hopefully you have a little better sense of what's going to be on your ballot. We've got to tell you how to cast that ballot. Here's what you need to know to be able to vote in the May 20th primary.
So first, an important deadline. If you want to vote by mail, today is the deadline to apply for a mail-in or absentee ballot. You can do that online. That's the easiest. Or you can apply directly at the Allegheny County Election Office downtown. It is open until 5 p.m.
And everything I've seen online, too, has that 5 p.m. deadline no matter what. So if you're planning to do this online, I would still get that done by 5 p.m. For Election Day, again, Tuesday, May 20th, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you do not know your polling place, we will have a link for that in our show notes, too. And if you are at a new polling place, just remember you will have to provide some kind of identification, or you might be asked. It might not be required, but you might be asked.
Yeah, and if you're going back to the same polling place you've been to before, you don't need to provide that ID.
And then if you need help on the actual day, ask your poll workers. There'll be a few at every single location. They are there to help you.
And there's often snacks and stickers. If you're voting in Allegheny County, you have stickers to look forward to.
I'm so excited for the new sticker.
That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Congrats to the winners of our membership campaign giveaway. Susie B. and Katie M. both snagged 1 pair each of free tickets to the Heinz History Center. We hope y'all enjoy. And welcome to our newest CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor, Denise W. We are so glad to have you. Neighbors new and old are invited to a get-together this Thursday. We're really excited to Toastians in person, but again, that is just for neighbors. If you want to join the party, it is not too late. Hit up membership.citycast.fm. We will be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. We'll talk to you soon.
I have never received a snack while voting.
Maybe I just look pathetic and hungry.